Hi everyone, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads, and in this Better Beader episode, we are going to talk about pricing your jewelry. So I know a lot of you make jewelry, sell jewelry. Some do it as a living, some do it just as a hobby, some just give away their jewelry. But many of you have people come up to you and ask if they can buy your jewelry, or you may sell it at craft fairs, or you may have a friend request something. And where do you start when it comes to actually pricing your jewelry? This question gets asked all the time, and I think there's no right or wrong answer. That's the problem with this topic, but I thought I'd go into some of the steps that I take to knowing what the market will allow and what the market will bear and how to price my jewelry accordingly. I have so much jewelry, so many examples, and so many things that I constantly have people asking to purchase things and whether or not this or that and the other. The problem is, what kind of price do you want to put on it? You don't want to outprice the market, that you put something crazy expensive that you say, oh, I want $100 for this, but you also don't want to not make any money for your time. The first thing to think about is how you value your time and come up with a wage for that time. What I like to do is think about the time that it takes per project and equate that to an hourly wage. Am I worth $5 an hour? Hopefully I'm worth a little bit more than that. So if I know a project takes me an hour, I'm gonna say, okay, just maybe $20 an hour as a nice rounded number. If I know something takes me 1 hour from design to making, to getting ready to price and finishing off, that's 1 hour of time. Many people don't count their design time into that or learning out how to do it. If you're figuring something out for the first time, sure, that doesn't need to be built in. But if you are picking out colors, you're picking out designs, and you're picking out the colorways for something that is a one-time project, think about your time as part of that time of the project. When you're looking at something that takes 1 hour, you're also going to look at the material cost. I have a number of things laying out here to kind of show you the range that it can be. Now, out of all of the projects that are sitting here, the one that took me the least amount of time is going to be the one that actually used the most expensive materials. So I have here the actual little chatons with the tassels and the earrings. This probably only takes me about 10 minutes per little beaded bead that I need to do. And this is the star bezel, in case you want to check that out on YouTube. And this project takes me a very limited amount of time, but it has the tassels on it, it has the bigger crystals in it, and it takes the least amount of time. Something that takes the most amount of time has the least amount of materials that go into it. The 8/0 seed beads and the 6/0 seed beads, pretty inexpensive in these colors. I don't have any galvanized ones on here, just some lined ones and some regular Salem. Then I have a couple 8mm crystals in the middle, but not many. This project that is going to be the least amount in the cost of materials took me the most time. This is why when people say you want to triple your materials or double your materials, what if I have something that's a higher end gemstone like this labradorite? This took me probably 6 minutes, 8 minutes to string all of this on to this sterling silver clasp, and I have a sterling silver bead on it. This is by far the most in materials out of all the pieces that I have sitting here. It also took me the least amount of time. I have a really, really hard time saying quadruple or double or anything that material costs because, again, it can vary so much what you're using. This little necklace that I did here as an example that I made for myself, I've got like $4 in that, and the amount of time in the beaded bead, the materials in the beaded bead, maybe $3. So I have about $7 and about $1 worth of cording. I have $8 in this. It took me to make the beaded bead maybe 15 minutes. It took me to do the cording maybe 10 minutes total. So I'm not looking at a huge investment in time, and I'm not looking at a huge investment in materials. However, if I say I'm worth $25 an hour or $20 an hour or 10 or 15, whatever you think you're worth, add that to the material cost. You can mark up your materials a little bit if you got a good deal on your materials. So say I think, oh yeah, this is great that it only cost me about $10 in materials. I maybe have a half an hour in design and making it at max. So looking at it, this should be a $25 piece. The market will bear that $25 piece. However, if I look at that same project and say, okay, this took me 4 hours and material cost maybe about $14, $15, in material cost $16 maybe, is it really going to be able to sell this for $90+ $100? Again, what will the market bear? A lot of us do bead weaving and seed beading, and the faster you get at that, if you're looking to do it for a living, the more money you're going to make, because there's only so much time and energy that people are going to want to spend on making something, and that has to be equatable to and actually making a profit if you do want to make this on a profit. It's a good idea if you do have some projects that take a long time and are a little bit higher in price range to throw and make some inexpensive projects if you're selling at craft tables, to make something that's a little bit more accessible to the everyday person that might not want to spend $100 on a bracelet. Your range usually of about $10 to $20 is actually going to sell the best, even at higher end craft fairs, because it's something easy that people want to take a piece of the jewelry that you created, but they also don't want to pay an arm and a leg for it. It's a really, really hard battle. I can't stress enough the idea of keeping in mind what your market will bear. If I'm selling in a small town outside of Mississippi somewhere, it's not going to be the same as someone living in New York City that has a higher cost of living and a higher price to display their jewelry and higher methods to actually traveling or shipping or getting their supplies. So take that into consideration. Look where you live, look where you're selling your pieces, and in what avenue. The internet is an awesome place, but it's flooded with people that make jewelry. You need to find a way to make that niche, make your pieces affordable and a good quality for what they are. Keep in mind that nice range of the $10 to $20 is going to sell the best when you're selling at just general craft shows, and figure out creative ways that you can make some of your pieces that do take a long amount of time into simpler pieces to make them more accessible. Now, that being said, sure, somebody may buy a whole entire collar that costs $400. Who are we kidding? Some people have that much money and that much disposable income. If you know that you have a market for that and it can bear that, that is no problem. But keep in mind, sometimes it's the simplest thing, using one high-end bead on one simple string, that may actually be the most attractive and fashionable. In addition to looking at the amount of time that you spend and factoring in that into an hourly wage, add in your material cost. Again, if you get a really great deal, you might bump that up a little bit, but generally speaking, that hourly wage plus the material cost is going to be a good idea of what your time is worth and what you can actually do to make a living out of the jewelry. If you're just doing it as a side job, you want to do it for friends, you can charge based on the piece and based on the materials. That's up to you. It has never been a good method for me to charge based on materials. It's always been a time value and a value of my time. When I did lots of jewelry repairs, same deal. I timed myself literally doing pearl knotting and doing some wire working and chain working to figure out how much those services cost, because I needed to know a rate that it would take to repair the pieces of jewelry or to make custom pieces. Keep that in mind, get your rate and your efficiency up, then that's just going to make it that much more enjoyable and easier to turn a profit if you are looking at pricing your jewelry. So again, stressing as much as I can, looking at some of these different pieces, I can get the same amount of money, generally speaking, for a pair of earrings, maybe as a big necklace. You're going to get more, obviously, for a necklace, or look to get more, but sometimes it's not always the case because of the time effort that it took you and the time effort that it was to create the piece and learn the stitch. The more you create, the easier it becomes, and the more you will make a market that can bear and take the different prices and the different challenges of jewelry. It's a hard world out there to sell your jewelry and to make it efficient that you will actually turn a profit doing so. If it pays for your materials, pays for your craft, and gets you to buy a little bit more beads, like in my case, that's great and that's awesome to me. But remember, keep in mind to value your time, because others are not going to value your time usually as much as you are. Make sure that if you are doing this to turn a profit, that there is a way that you can make a profit and not outprice yourself from the market. So from my words of wisdom, my brief words of wisdom, look at what the market can bear. Go to other places and look at what they're selling jewelry for, what people in your area are looking for and what they're selling their prices at. What they're going to a little boutique and buying might not be the same as what they're picking up at Kohl's. So keep in mind you have different shoppers, different outlets to shop at, and different places to buy. Those will help you indicate, as you do a little bit of market research, what you can charge for your pieces. If you're losing money, obviously you want to rethink what you're making and what you're designing. And if it's just a hobby and a craft, have fun creating. And if you want to, give some pieces away, the karma comes back. As always, with all of these Better Beader episodes, hopefully it made you think about looking and doing a little market research, pricing your jewelry accordingly, and thinking about doing it based on an hourly wage rate rather than doing a multiplication of materials, which I've never liked. It does work for some people if you're using a lot of the same materials and doing a lot of the same techniques, but I do so much varied that it never worked for me, and it was better for me to figure out what my time was worth. If you want to subscribe to this YouTube channel and get regular updates when we do all of these Better Beader episodes, we're coming up on, getting to that grand 40 number here in a couple, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel by hitting the little bell below me. You can also check out the links that we put in the bottom of all the videos to get the supplies that we talk about. We'll put in links to some of the YouTube videos that I have sitting here, as well as getting regular updates from us here at PotomacBeads. As always with all these Better Beader episodes, hopefully this made you a little bit of a better beader and an idea to price your jewelry. Thanks so much for watching, and keep creating, everyone.